10210Y1.0 GHz 4.0 GHz 2.7 GHz 4.5 Core i3-10110Y2 4 3.7 GHz 1000 MHz 4MB 5.5 was $287. 11th generation. Tiger Lake. Launched on September 2nd, 2020. Architecture changes compared to Ice Lake. CPU. Intel Willow Cove CPU cores, 117. Larger Level 2 and Level 3, L2/L3, caches. A new AVX 512 instruction, vector pair intersection to a pair of mask registers, VP2 intersect, 118, 119. Control flow enforcement technology to prevent return-oriented programming and jump-oriented programming hacking techniques, 120. Full memory, RAM, encryption, 121. Indirect branch tracking and shadow stack, 122. Intel Keylocker, 123, 124. AVX/AVX2 instructions support for Pentium Gold and Celeron processors has been unlocked. GPU. Intel XELP, Gen 12, GPU with up to 96 execution units, 125, 50% uplift compared to Ice Lake, with some yet to be announced processors using Intel's discrete GPU, DG1, 126, 127. Fixed function hardware decoding for high efficiency video coding 12-bit, 42:2/4/4:4, VP9 12-bit 4:4:4 and AV1 8K 10-bit 4:2:0, 128, 129, 130. Support for a single 8K 12-bit high dynamic range video display or two 4K resolution 10-bit HDR displays. Hardware accelerated Dolby Vision. Sampler feedback, 131, 132, 133, support. I/O. PCI Express 4.0, 134. Pentium and Celeron CPUs are limited to PCI Express 3.0. Thunderbolt 4 includes USB 4. LPDDR4X 4267 memory support. LPDDR5-5400 architecture capability. Intel expects Tiger Lake products with LPDDR5 to be available around Q1 2021. 135, 136, 137. Designs with LPDDR5 memory are yet to be announced as of March 2022. Miniaturization of CPU and motherboard into an M.2 SSD-sized small circuit board, 126. Mobile processors, Tiger Lake H. All models support DDR4-3200 memory. All models support 20 reconfigurable PCI Express 4.0 lanes, allowing X16 Gen 4 Link 4 discrete GPU and X4 Gen 4 Link 4 M.2 SSDs. Processor branding model cores, threads, base FRIC at TDP Max Turbo FRIC. Active cores UHD graphics card at 35W at 45W at 65W1 or 246 Alice Max Frick Core i9-11980HK8, 16. 2.6 GHz, 3.3 GHz, 5.0 GHz, 4.9 GHz, 4.7 GHz, 4.5 GHz, 321.45 GHz, 11950 HV Pro 2.1 GHZN/11900H 2.5 GHz, 4.9 GHz, 4.8 GHz, 4.6 GHz, 4.4 Score i7 i7-11850 vPro 4.8 GHz 4.8 GHz 4.6 GHz 4.3 GHz 11800H 1.9 GHz 2.3 GHz 4.6 GHz 4.5 GHz 4.4 GHz 4.2 Score i5-11500H6 12 2.4 GHz 2.9 GHz 4.6 GHz 4.4 GHz 4.2 GHz vPro 11400H 2.2 GHz 2.7 GHz 4.5 GHz 4.3 GHz 4.1 GHz 1611260H 2.1 GHz 2.6 GHz 4.4 GHz 4.2 GHz 4.0 GHz 1.40 GHz Mobile processors, Tiger Lake H35 all models support DDR4-3200 or LPDDR4X 4267 memory. Processor branding model cores, threads, base FreeCAD TDP Max Turbo Frick Active Cores Iris Xe Graphics Smart CAD 28W at 35W12 Alice Max Frick Core i7-11390H4, 8. 2.9 GHz, 3.4 GHz, 5.0 GHz, 4.6 GHz, 961.40 GHz, 12 MB 11375H, 3.0 GHz, 3.3 GHz, 5.0 GHz, 4.8 GHz, 4.3 GHz, 1.35 GHz, 11370H, 4.8 Score i5-11320H, 2.5 GHz, 3.2 GHz, 4.5 GHz, 8 MB 11300H, 2.6 GHz, 3.1 GHz, 4.4 GHz, 4.0 GHz, 801.30 GHz. Mobile processors, up 3 class. Processor branding model cores, threads. Base FreeCAD TDP Max Turbo Freck Pasmarkach at 12W at 15W at 28W1 Korea Corsair's Max Frick Core i7-1195G74, 8. 1.3 GHz 2.9 GHz 5.0 GHz 4.6 XeSXe 961.40 GHz 12M1185G7 vPro 1.2 GHz 1.8 GHz 136 3.0 GHz 4.8 GHz 4.3 GHz 1.35 GHz 1165 G71.2 GHz 1.7 GHz 2.8 GHz 4.7 GHz 4.1 GHz 1.30 Score i5-1155 G71.0 GHz 2.5 GHz 4.5 GHz 4.3 GHz 801.35 GHz 8 MB 1145 G7 vPro 1.1 GHz 1.5 GHz 2.6 GHz 4.4 GHz 3.8 GHz 1.30 GHz 1135 G70.9 GHz 1.4 GHz 2.4 GHz 4.2 GHz 3.8 Score i3-1125 G42.0 GHz 3.7 GHz 3.3 XUT481.25 GHz 1115 G42 4 1.7 GHz 2.2 GHz 3.0 GHz 4.1 GHz 6 MB Embedded mobile processors, up 3 class. Processor branding model cores, threads. Base FreeCAD Max Turbo Freck PUCAC at 12W at 15W at 28 Zerizis Max Frick. Core i7-1185 Grev Pro 4, 8, 1.2 GHz 1.8 GHz 2.8 GHz 4.4 XESXE96 1.35 GHz 1185 G7F Pro Core i5 1145 Grev Pro 1.1 GHz 1.5 GHz 2.6 GHz 4.1 GHz 801.30 GHz 1145 G7F Pro Core i3 1115 GRE2 4 1.7 GHz 2.2 GHz 3.0 GHz 3.9 Z4 81.25 GHz 1115 G4E. Mobile processors, up 4 class. Processor branding model cores, threads. Base Frick at TDP Max Turbo Freck per Smart at 7W at 9W at 15W1 Korea Chorus Max Frick Core i7-1180 G7V Pro 4, 8. 0.9 GHz 2.2 GHz 4.6 XESXE96 1.10 GHz 12 MB 1160 G71.2 GHz 2.1 GHz 4.4 GHz 3.6 Score i5 1140 G7V Pro 0.8 GHz 1.8 GHz 4.2 GHz 808 MB 1130 G71.1 GHz 4.0 GHz 3.4 Score i3 1120 G41.5 GHz 3.5 GHz 3.0 XZ48 1110 G42 4 1.5 GHz 1.8 GHz 2.5 GHz 3.9 GHz 6 MB Desktop /tablet processors, Tiger Lake B. Socket, FGA 1787, ABGA socket, thus these CPUs are meant only for system integrators. Intel Xe UHD graphics. Up to 128 GB DDR4-3200 memory. Was initially incorrectly listed as having a 5.3 GHz TVB boost frequency. 138. Processor branding model cores, threads, base /boost clocks, GHz, L3 cache, MB, TDP GPU EU GPU Max Frick Core i9-11900 KB8, 16. 3.3/4924655W321.45 Score i7-11700B3.2/4.8 Core i5-11500B6, 12. 3.3/4.612 Core i3-11100B4, 8. 3.6/4.4161.4 GHz. Rocket Lake microarchitecture. Rocket Lake is a code name for Intel's desktop x86 chip family based on the new Cypress Cove microarchitecture, a variant of Sunny Cove, used by Intel's Ice Lake mobile processors, backported to the older 14nm process. 139. The chips are marketed as Intel 11th generation Core. Launched the 30th of March, 2021. Architecture changes in comparison with Comet Lake. CPU. Intel Cypress Cove CPU cores. Up to 19% claimed increase in IPC, instructions per clock, 139, 140. DL Boost, low precision arithmetic for deep learning, and AVX 512 instructions. Compared to its predecessors, SGX instruction set extensions are removed, 141, 142. GPU. Intel XELP, Gen 12, GPU with up to 32 execution units, 125, 143. Fixed function hardware decoding for HEV 12-bit, 42:2/4/4:4, VP9 12-bit 4:4:4 and AV18K 10-bit 4:2:0, 128, 129, 130. DisplayPort 1.4 with display stream compression, HDMI 2.0b. Support for a single 8K 12-bit HDR display or two 4K 10-bit HDR displays. Hardware accelerated Dolby Vision. Sampler feedback, 131, 132, 133, 144, support. Dual Q support, 145. Variable rate shading, 146, 147. Integer and nearest neighbor image scaling, 148. GPUs on desktop CPUs support 5K 60Hz. I/O. Up to 20 CPU lanes of PCI Express 4.0, 149. DDR4-3200 memory support, 139. USB 3.2 Gen 2.2. Optional USB 4/Thunderbolt 4 when paired with Intel JHL 8540 Thunderbolt 4 controller, 150, 151. DMI 3.0 x8 link with Intel 500 series chipsets. Desktop processors. All CPUs listed below support DDR4-3200 natively. The Core i9K/KF processors enable a 1:1 ratio of DRAM to memory controller by default at DDR4-3200, whereas the Core i9 non-K/KF and all other CPUs listed below enable a 2:1 ratio of DRAM to memory controller by default at DDR4-3200 and a 1:1 ratio by default at DDR4-2933.152. All CPUs support up to 128 GB of RAM in dual-channel mode. Core i9 CPUs, except 11900T, support Intel Thermal Velocity Boost technology. Processor branding model cores, threads, base clock radial core Turbo Boost 2.0 Turbo Boost Max 3.0 Core i9 11900.
Yes, the video is just split. But we cannot finish. I have to finish my other camcorder, so that's just a lot of numbers. But that's how computer processors is. A lot of numbers and numbers. No, a lot of numbers and digits. And I'm collecting this Intel processors. Was my plan to buy some old gamer PCs, all kind of motherboards, but I have this credit card debt. I'm trying to get out my credit card debts, so I cannot really buy anything, and I have to move out my apartment next week. Oh, and now I have pain in my back, and this computer is super old. It's an old Intel Core i5 8th generation. It's an old 8th generation. Now we have to stop the video because the video is splitting. But I will finish this. I will use this camcorder.